I want to show you an amazing chicken and rice recipe. Chicken and rice is such an amazing home cooked dish, all done in one pan. Beautiful brown chicken thighs, sausage, and rice to collect all that flavor, all cooked together. In this recipe, I also make a crucial rookie mistake, and I almost ruined the dish and had to throw it all out. But I was able to rectify the situation, think quick on my feet, and get dinner on the table. You're really gonna love this episode. For the full ingredient list, check the description box below. But enough talking, let's get cooking. My favorite, bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. This is one of the best meats to make these home-style meals. We're going to trim off some of the excess skin because as this skin cooks, it's going to render fat into the chicken and rice, and it might get a little too greasy. So we're just going to cut off the stuff that's just hanging off the outside. And don't you worry, we're not going to throw this chicken skin out. We'll probably do something with this and crisp it up. This stuff's so good. Big fan of crispy chicken thigh skin. Now we're going to put some oil on top of this as a binder. We're going to use some of my base seasoning, which is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. The link to the video recipes in the description, and if you're a regular here, you already know that. So now we're also going to put on some smoked paprika. This is going to add a wonderful smoky flavor and give this chicken a beautiful red color. Then we're going to throw a little oil on top to help loosen up some of those dry spices, and now we're just going to keep rubbing them together by hand till we get a nice even coating of spice and oil all over each chicken thigh. We're going to set these aside and let them come up to room temperature and also let the spices and oil do their thing. Now let's prep some of our vegetables. I always like to show some of the vegetable prep because so much of cooking is vegetable prep. So we're going to take the seeds out of this pepper. We're going to slice it down by pulling our knife with a pepper upside down. The knife just grabs the pepper so much easier when it's upside down like this. And then we're going to turn it sideways, and we can either pull the knife through or we can push it forward. Both are fine. But by keeping the knife in contact with the cutting board, it makes this a whole lot easier. And we're going to do the same thing over to the other side. Remember, 90% of cooking is chopping vegetables, so get really good at this stuff, and cooking will get so much better. And out of that 90% that's cooking is cutting vegetables, 95% of that is cutting onions. So really learn how to cut onions. This is a small dice. It's probably like the most common cut that I'm putting on an onion for any type of recipe. So get good at this, and then all of a sudden cooking will become much faster. So we'll take these and we'll put these into the containers. And now we're going to cut these mushrooms into quarters. Always cut them right side up and not upside down, because then this happens and they're just harder to hold together. And we're putting these in all these little containers so we can take them over by the stove and assemble them. And now here comes our all-time favorite, all these garlic cloves. This recipe probably should have like 2 garlic cloves, but I put like 10. Do whatever you'd like. And then we're going to put rocker chopper onto this garlic, and we're going to put a fine mince on it. And it's going to go in its own little container so we can take it over by the stove for assembly. And we're also going to do the same thing to a shallot. We're going to finely dice it, also going in its own container. And we're also going to prep our parsley. I think there's too many people making videos out there with parsley, and they're just showing the parsley and then they show them chopping it, but they never show them taking the stems off. And I think it's really important to take the stems off of parsley. It's kind of gross and it's really unrefined. So take the extra time, take the leaves off, and then rocker chopper it again all the way down to super fine. This we're going to put in a container and we're going to set aside in the fridge. So now let's preheat our oven to 350 degrees, and we'll also get a cast iron pan hot over a medium-high heat. This is a giant 15-inch cast iron pan. We're going to take our sausage, we're going to line them right around the outside of the pan. Then we're going to put a little bit of oil in the middle, and we're going to lay our chicken thighs skin side down right on top of that oil. And you can see that oil sizzling, that chicken skin cooking a little bit. And now I know that my pan was hot enough. You really got to make sure it's hot before the chicken skin hits there. It's really hard for this pan to catch up with heat, especially you can see the amount of meat that we're putting in there. So now after a few minutes on one side, we're going to flip over the chicken thighs, and you can see these are already starting to take on a nice dark brown color. Same thing with the sausages. And remember, we don't have to fully cook the sausage or the chicken thighs. We're just trying to get some color on all of it. So I'll probably flip them 1 to 2 times to make sure that we're getting really nice maximal color on the sausages. And once you start seeing that nice brown color develop, you know that we're getting close, and you want to see that color on both sides. You don't want half the flavor, you want double the flavor, and that's both sides brown. So once we get both sides brown, we're going to pull them out, and now let's start to reclaim all those flavors inside that pan. We have a iron-tight clad, no flavors left behind policy here, and so we're going to pick up all those flavors left by the chicken thighs and the sausage. We're going to put the onions in and let them soften up a little bit. We're going to follow those up with the shallots, and I'm constantly moving these around the pan, and we're going to dump in our red pepper. And as these are cooking, they're letting off moisture, and that moisture is cleaning the bottom of the pan, picking up all of that goodness. We're going to throw in our mushrooms, and then in goes the garlic. Give that a little mix. We're going to season that with some Italian seasoning, some of my base seasoning, a little bit of crushed red pepper. And as we're putting these in, we are mixing them in and letting these spices toast up a little bit. Now we're going to put in a cup of rice, and this is just a regular long grain rice. We're going to give that a little mix and let it toast up. Now we're going to put in a splash of white vinegar and a little bit of this cheap white wine. If you drink Foxhorn, I feel sorry for your headaches. And now we're going to put in a can of some fire-roasted diced tomatoes. And I chose the fire-roasted ones because they just add just another layer of flavor element that I think works really well here. 200 years ago, this would be a dish cooked over an open fire, so it would definitely pick up some smoky flavor. We're going to put in some chicken bouillon paste and cheat a little bit. Give that a little mix in until it's all mixed into the liquid. And now this is where I make the crucial mistake, and I put too much liquid. I didn't account for the amount of moisture that the vegetables were going to give off, so I put in about 2 cups here, and I probably put in about 3/4 of a cup too much. But we'll get back to that later. So now that these sausages have had a chance to cool, we're going to slice them. And you can see that they're not fully cooked all the way through, but that's okay because everything's going to cook all together. We're going to throw these on a plate, and then we're going to dump them right into our cooking vessel here. We're going to give that a mix into the rice and the vegetables that are in there, and then we're just going to lay the chicken thighs right on top. At this point, I kind of knew that there was a little bit too much, but I had some hope that the rice was going to absorb this liquid, but let's make sure that we also leave no flavors left behind, get all those chicken drippings back in there. We're going to tightly cover this with some aluminum foil, and we're going to send this in the oven for anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. After about 30 minutes, I pulled it because I wanted to check on it, and I'm glad that I did because there's way too much liquid in here for this point. At this point, most of the liquid should have been absorbed, and there shouldn't be all this liquid on top. This is way too soupy. So what I decided to do here, because this pan is just way too big to dump out or anything like that, I'm going to pull these chicken thighs out one by one and set them aside while I attend to this liquid. And now with this large serving spoon, I'm going to start to spoon out the liquid a little bit at a time and just looking for like little wells and puddles just so I could reduce the total amount of liquid in here. And my thought process here is if I can pull out some of the liquid and this rice still has a little bit of absorption left, we could send this back in the oven for another 10 minutes and maybe all of the extra liquid can be absorbed and this could be servable. This is definitely not servable with all that liquid in there. And we're going to put it back in uncovered to let some of the liquid evaporate. So that's going to go back in the oven for another like 10 to 15 minutes. And if you thought we were going to throw that liquid out, you were wrong. This stuff is liquid gold. There's so much flavor in there. We could throw this in another braised dish, so I'm going to strain that out and throw that in the fridge. And now, moment of truth. Boom. Nailed it. This came out perfect. It's totally edible. We definitely saved this. So right before we serve this, we're going to pull out the chicken. We're going to give the rice a little bit of a fluff, and you can see it's not swimming in liquid anymore. Not only am I excited that we saved this recipe video and all this food, but it smells absolutely fantastic in here. It smells like 3 Italian grandmas brought their hardest heat. We're going to put some capers on top. These are going to add a nice, like, briny, pickled element to this dish. And then we're going to sprinkle with some of that chopped parsley, team no stems. And now look how amazing this dish looks. A lot of cooking's making mistakes, but you also got to learn how to make mistakes and still get dinner on the table.
And now that's a valuable lesson to learn in cooking, that, you know, sometimes you're going to make mistakes. You have to figure out how to get dinner on the table. I couldn't throw this out and start all over again. This is a lot of food. So we got to figure out how to make it work. So I'm glad that happened, and I'm glad you stuck around to this point, because now we get the best part. We get the taste test. A nice scoop of this rice. I love my sausage. Let's get an extra piece there. And now, chicken thigh right on the top. And if you wanted to, right before you serve this, let's say you're doing a little home date right now, a little sprinkle on top, and you'd think that this was delivered from the restaurant. It looks so pretty. This is one of my favorite styles of cooking, because you take things that are completely different, transform them, they're all cooked together. There were no flavors left behind. Every single thing was picked up by this pan and is now inserted into this rice. And we're gonna try to get a little bit of everything in the first bite. So definitely some of the chicken skin. We'll get a sausage in there. We'll get a mushroom in there. And let's see if we could fit anything more on this fork. So here's a really, really nice bite. Bon appetit. I mean, I just said it, and I'm gonna say it again. This is my favorite style of cooking. This is like grandma cooking. You take a bunch of stuff, you add the liquid, it's braised together. Sometimes there's multiple meats like this one between the chicken and the sausage. This is so darn good. I mean, the rice is a little overcooked, but this is totally edible. I've already made the adjustments inside the description box in the recipe, so there's a little less than I used in the video. I'm probably gonna finish this entire plate of food. While I'm doing that, I want you to go check out my crispy chicken thigh video. This is the updated version of the original recipe that lit this channel on fire. And if you do want another chicken thigh video, check out my stuffed chicken thighs. I'll see you there. Thanks.